And we've been out here since this afternoon, late this morning. We talked to Edward of HUN News, and that's the Human Union News Network. We talked to him about the Colorado Artificial Intelligence Act. We saw Representative Ken DeGraff. We were going to get an interview with him here in a bit. We were also going to see what was going on in the Senate and House chambers. Walk around, try to talk to some people, try to talk to some representatives. We had a couple questions for a couple different representatives we were going to try to catch today. So that's why we came out here. We wanted to get an early start in 2026 and be a part of what was going on at the Colorado State Capitol. So let's talk a little bit about some of the controversy in Colorado. Some of you may know that there has been a recent cancellation of 262 CDLs issued for federal use to refugees and asylum seekers here in Colorado. And if you know anything about the program, you would know that it's been a point of contention for a while because the DMV's been issuing these not for federal use IDs to not just CDLs, but to just regular citizens. And there's a lot of them that have been issued. So these not for federal use IDs allow people who have come here possibly without documentation or much documentation to integrate into society, to receive benefits possibly, and it's something that a lot of people don't want. It's been touted as something that helps improve the safety of our roads. So when we have people driving that are unlicensed, it isn't as safe and it can't be tracked as much. So there's two bills in particular that were put forth. I believe it's SB 13251, which was the Colorado Road and Community Safety Act. So that was one of these bills that contributed to what we're seeing with these not for federal use IDs. Because like I said, it was supposed to be about safety. That's how it started. And with SB 13251, the Road and Community Safety Act, hey, in the chat there, that's the act that started it all. And that leads up to SB 24182, which is the Immigrant ID Documentation Issuance Act. So basically what has happened in Colorado is these two laws in particular, and some other ones around them, have created a sanctuary state for refugees. As you know, Colorado's pretty close to the border, and now in Colorado, especially after SB 24182, a refugee, asylum seeker under the Biden administration could come right over the border. Very little paperwork. I believe it's just a passport and maybe one more proof of something. And they come over the border and they can get an ID in Colorado. But you see, that's not legal under federal guidelines. So they issue these IDs with the writing that says not for federal use. So that's what happened with the CDLs, is they were issuing those same types of IDs, but to certified driver's license holders. I don't know if maybe that contributed to some of the stories we heard about drivers driving on the road. They were driving trucks, they couldn't speak English, and it was pretty frustrating. So how could something like that happen? Well, this might be part of how it happened. Because with SB, if you're just coming in the chat, SB 13251, the Colorado Road and Community Safety Act, and SB 24182, the Immigrant ID Document Issuance Act, that is what has allowed asylum seekers to get IDs in Colorado. And you see, they become citizens of Colorado, or residents, should I say, but they're not citizens. So they're residents here officially, but they're not citizens. So it puts them in a limbo status, in a sanctuary status here. And that's where we're at in Colorado. And as you can see, these sanctuary protections aren't helping anybody. People are pretty fed up with them. So that's why we wanted to come out here, is to talk to people about these pieces of legislation, to see if they would be addressing these things in the 2026 session, or if maybe they could address them if they weren't, because these are some very concerning things that are going on in our community. Something else that's happened and came down just recently is from Washington, and that's the flock images for law enforcement ALPRs. There was a ruling that those are now public information. And you see, folks, we can't compromise our freedom for safety, or in the name of safety. And it's getting to the point where a lot of people are frustrated with flock. We saw right here in Denver, there was a lot of people frustrated with it, a lot of back and forth between Mike Johnson and city council and people who came out and spoke out against it. And this is a bipartisan issue. This is on both sides. It doesn't matter if you're watching here, if you're a Democrat or Republican. I think we can all be concerned about AI, the encroachment of the state and the surveillance state upon citizens. So check out that ruling in Washington that allows flock law enforcement images to be public record. So I would imagine that we're going to have to see some regulation around that as well. But then on top of that, we also had heard about the HHS issuing the ban on sex rejecting surgeries. So that's another thing we wanted to talk about today and see if anybody had anything to say about that, and if that will possibly be addressed in the 2026 session. Because as you know, in Colorado, this was the first state to list gender care as an EHB under the Affordable Care Act. So what is EHB? It's essential health benefit. So I believe it was under the Obama administration. They asked each state to pick a certain amount of essential health benefits. That's certain things that would have to be covered by insurance. Colorado was, it might have been under the Biden administration, Colorado was the first state to issue gender care as an EHB. So that's pretty crazy, because it was a test thing, you know. So now we have this confliction of Health and Human Services saying these are sex rejecting surgeries, but yet in Colorado these are considered an essential health benefit where insurers are forced to cover them. But this HHS ruling's coming more down on the hospitals and providers. So it's blocking the providers from providing the care. It's not so much on the insurers. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see if this is brought up in the 2026 session. As you know, there's been a lot of censorship of speech here at the Colorado State Capitol. That's actually how we got started. Is years ago, we were out here covering, it was Tiara's Law. And I want to say it was HB 23-1071 and 1039. And we witnessed people getting gavelled down for what I'd say is protected speech, and speech that's not even, in my opinion, a violation of decorum. It had to do with things that offended people, transgender people in particular. And some didn't want to hear it, but it was very important stuff. And it felt very Orwellian to sit in that room and watch multiple people get gavelled down multiple times. There ended up being a lawsuit over that because it happened in the Senate, but it also happened in the House committees. And, you know, when we saw the level of censorship around the transgender issues here, when we saw the media that was not reporting on any of the other stuff besides in the big room, which is the House floor and the Senate chamber floor. We wanted to go into the committees. We wanted to talk to people. We wanted to come up here more. And boy, when we did, we got some stories of a lifetime. So I see everybody in that chat there. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We are a bipartisan, constitutionalist, Christian media company. We're based out of Colorado, so we do a lot of coverage in the Colorado State Capitol. And we've developed a relationship with some of the people here. I mean, the Sergeant at Arms know us well. We had talked to the Speaker of the House because they wouldn't let us join the press corps, but we came to an agreement to where we could go in and film, but not be a part of the press corps, but we can't go on the chamber floor. So we've been through quite a lot here at the Colorado State Capitol, and we need your support. We need you to subscribe. We need you to hit the like button, and also the notification bell. And check out our website. That's www.1amediagroup.com. We just launched a new section of it where we have articles. We're going to be putting out a lot more articles. We have investigations there, and we're doing our 2026 relaunch of our site. So check that out and stick with us as we continue to cover some crazy issues in Colorado this year. So we're going to be out here all day. We just ran into Ken DeGraff. I think he went to eat lunch. I'm going to try to get an interview with him here in a little bit. I also want to try to get an interview with Representative Brianna Titone, because I think that the things that Brianna's addressed about AI are very important, and I'd like to speak with Brianna about that. So yeah, we'll be back with you. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned. I'm Jordan Scott Baldwin with First Amendment Media, and we'll be back with you.